Welcome to the Pest Empire Builder podcast. On today's episode, we're talking with Lenny about high-level strategies on your sales flow process. You don't want to miss this episode. And welcome to the show. I'm so glad you tuned in today. Today we're hanging out with Lenny. Lenny, how you doing, man?
I am doing fantastic as always, Matt. It's always good to be here. I don't know how many times I've been on this, but I can't get enough of the PEB Insiders podcast. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. And I got to say, you're one of my favorite guests to have on the show, too. So don't tell the others, you know.
But they're not listening. Don't worry. I'm sure everybody's listening. Now you're going to be in trouble, but no, that's all good. That's all good. It's fun.
It's like with your kids, you know, you're not supposed to have favorites, you know, but you do, you know, and so.
And it changes, right? I'm sure the next guest will be on. That'll be your favorite when he or she comes back on. So, you know, it is what it is. I'll be your favorite today. That sounds like a good idea to me. So.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. You know, so I did this thing with my kids. They were young and I did this thing where I was tucking them in at night and doing the prayers. Their rooms were right next to each other. And I think they were like 6 and 8 years old, something like that, old enough to know better. And so went into my 6-year-old, tuck her in, and it's like, hey, don't tell your sister, but you're my favorite. And her eyes get huge. She's like, but Dad, you can't say that. You can't have favorites, you know? And I was like, I know, but just don't tell your sister, all right? And so then I go to the next room and do the same nightly prayers, tuck her in, same thing. Don't tell your sister, but you're my favorite, you know? And she's like, oh my God, you can't do that. And both of them, they lit up like, oh my gosh, yes, my favorite, right? That. And I thought, I'm going to work this as long as I can, you know?
Yeah. And until they talk.
Yeah, right. Until they talk. So that, you know, they went to bed at like 7 or something that night. And so 10 o'clock at night, like I'm getting ready for bed, they come marching into my room, like together. It lasted 3 hours.
Gotcha, Dad. We got to call you out.
Yeah, and so I to this day, they're 16 and 18 now. So for the last 10 years, I still do it. And so I was like, hey, don't tell your sister, but you're my favorite, you know? Like in their birthday cards, whatever. It's like, hey, happy birthday, and P.S. don't tell your sister, but you're my favorite. And I do it to both of them all the time, and it's kind of become this running joke, you know? And so anyhow, it's all right, Lenny, you're my favorite.
There you go. Well, let me tell you why I love that story. There's a couple reasons there why what sticks out to me. Number one, props to you for having prayers with your kids. I think that's huge. I think as a parent, that's something that we've always done with our kids as well. We have a family prayer at night. We have it in the morning. I think that's incredible. So props to you for that. Second is, maybe I've shared this before on this podcast, but we had a surprise baby. And so we've got all these older kids. We've got a 23, a 21, a 19, a 17, and then we've got a 4-year-old. Ooh. So we had this little surprise baby, this 13-year gap from youngest to now the youngest. And the funny thing is now everybody knows she's our favorite. And we're like, everybody's good with it. They're like, we know she's your favorite. It's like, yep, you're right. So it's a little different setup than a 6 and an 8-year-old, you know, 2 years apart since we have this big gap. But it's kind of a known thing that, yeah, the little one's our favorite. So
that's so funny. Like, I couldn't imagine going back. Like, once your kids are out of diapers and they're like getting further on along in life, they're getting more independent, and you're like, oh, I got to start over.
Oh, like, it's totally a start over. So it's, yeah. And I will say that she is getting parented very differently than the other kids. I mean, we just 2 weeks ago now, we went skiing, and she had to miss school to go skiing. And I will tell you, when our older kids were at her age in the primary school she's at, like they never miss, because this is when they're learning their alphabet and their letters. And my wife would always be like, "Oh my gosh, if they miss a day, they're never going to know what the letter K, what sound it makes.
They'll never recover.
It's never gonna." And now with this one, we're like, "Listen, she'll figure it out. We don't have to worry about it. We're taking her skiing because the letter K, it'll get learned at some point." So yeah, she gets a lot more pass than the other kids. Just a different lens that we're looking at parenting through this time.
Well, you have a lot more experience. Like, you raised 4 kids, and you got to go back and start with the 5th one. I mean, come on, you're a seasoned veteran at this point.
Oh yeah,
you know, yeah, absolutely, yeah. The first ones were the guinea pigs. You know, that was your science experiment. Now you're going to get it right on this one.
You're overly cautious and careful, and with this one, we're like, you're fine. Don't worry, you're not bleeding. Okay, you're good. Like we're okay. So it's it's great, and she's the cutest, and we love having her in the house, and so do all my other kids. It's a blessing to be able to do it again, even though I don't even want to think, Matt, about how old I'm going to be when this one graduates. We're not even going to talk about that because they might have to wheel me in. I'll have a cane, and it's going to be a little ridiculous. But
and yeah, you're like, is that your grandfather? You're like,
yeah,
no.
I'm sure people might already ask that. So, but but yeah, no, I mean, what better thing, right? What better thing to be a parent, right? And to raise kids and to see a legacy leave on. Because whenever I leave this earth, I'm going to have posterity to leave behind. I think that's what it's all about.
I agree. Yeah, right. And my parents worked really, really hard, and they built a better starting place. I had a better starting place in life than they did because of what they did and how they worked and raised me. And so now for me, it's like, I'm going to work really hard to make sure that my kids have a better starting place in life than I had. And and so I hope that my kids can do the same thing and be like, I'm going to work really hard to make sure that, and then they have generational like building of like legacy, like you say, and how can you build that generational legacy? I mean, it's just one day at a time like that. It's kind of like building a company or a sales process.
And you're going to segue, and you're perfect at this because you do this very well. I want to park on just something really quickly there because I get this question a lot. So I came probably like you. I came from very humble beginnings. My dad was a police officer. My mom owned a very small house cleaning company. And in fact, that's where I got my start in home services. I'd go on the weekends and I'd go, turn over these ski condos or these, clients that she had and go turn them around so that the new renters could come in. And I'd endorse stamp, checks. I'd stamp the checks for my mom, just do these little menial tasks growing up. But, you get to the point and you talk about this, these generations and these starting points. When I guess the question would be just food for thought. And I'm curious, even the audience just to think about this kind of a rhetorical question for those listening. But at what point, what is the starting point that is a good starting point where you still got to be hungry and you still got to go out and get yours and you're not set up? Because we all know people that are just generationally wealthy and they don't have to worry about anything if they didn't want to. I don't think that's necessarily the answer. I'd almost rather have a kid start at zero and have to work for everything than have everything and not really have to work. I just don't know where the balance is, I guess.
Right. That's a tough one. And so, okay, so here's where I'm currently doing is my oldest is graduating high school right now. And I told both of my kids, if you want to go to college, that's on you. Like, I'm going to help you, but that's on you. It's like I'm investing heavily into your life for these first 18 years. And then you graduate high school. At some point in time, you have to take ownership and invest in your own life, in your own growth, in your own development. And that day starts when you graduate high school. And I've had so many people be like, Matt, you can afford to send your kids to college. Like, why? I'm not doing it because I don't have the money. I'm doing it because of that exact principle of they need to take ownership of their life at some point in time. And if I hand them everything like on a silver platter, then they're not going to learn how to like forage for berries on their own and like build their own, right? And they have to learn how to do that at some point in time. And so, so now she's asking all these questions. Well, she got a scholarship covering her tuition, right? So that's awesome. I was like, you can live with me all the way through college, rent free, and you can eat whatever food you find in the kitchen, and so you have free room, free board, free, no utilities, right? You got Wi-Fi. Your cell phone's already covered by me. And I said, and as long as you're going to school, I'll cover your car insurance. And so now she's like, okay. It's like, but you still got books. You still got fees. You still want to go hang out with your friends. You want to do other things. It's like, your car's going to break down. You're going to have to pay for that yourself now. And so it's like, how do you hand over these responsibilities? And, and maybe I'm already doing too much. I don't really know. But I'm trying my best to like not just hand them everything because I can. I think the best legacy I can give them is not here's everything for free, but you got to work for this and you got to earn it. And like my parents didn't hand me anything. My dad was a pastor of a small church. Like they don't make any. He worked 2-3 jobs to keep food on the table. I grew up the same way. When I had a job at 16, I had to buy my own clothes. My parents couldn't afford it, and I value those lessons. I complained about it at the time, but now I look back and I'm like, yeah, I needed those hard times to be able to be strong enough to handle life.
Yeah. Well, and I bet, we could take 100 different people and they'd all give 100 different answers as far as what makes the most sense, as far as what does that look like. And I think it's kid dependent too. Like some of our older kids are very independent, and we've said kind of our starting point, Matt, and again, right nor wrong, it's what it is, but we've said we'll help you out through college. And then after college is kind of our starting point where it's like, okay, you figure it out. And we've had kids that are like, I don't want your help for college. I want to start taking this on. We've had others that'll probably be kicking and screaming when they're done with school to be like, are you sure you can't help me with just this first little thing or that little thing? Yeah. So it's different based on kid, but I love that you have some kind of a starting point and an understanding of where that line is drawn. And I think that's what's important. Again, whether it's in family and parenthood or business or whatever, as long as there's open communication and there's an understanding, I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah. And it's fun raising kids, and it's challenging too. Like there's certainly days where you're like, did your brain just fall out of your head? Like, what happened? And then, 3 days later, 4 days later, it's funny. Their mom and I were just talking this morning about this, and so we learned this trick, especially with girls, that put the words "for now," after what they say, because they're like, I hate you, you're the worst ever, and like, I can't believe that you would ever do this to me, and like, I'm so upset with you, blah 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 blah, and then they walk away. In the back of your head, you have to go, For now. Yeah. Right? Because guess what? A week or two from now, you're the best parents ever. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you'd do this. For now.
Yep. Yeah.
And so to put that on there and realize I'm playing the long game, not the short game. I'm not going to live and die on the momentary emotions of a teenager, because those are fleeting. I'm in this for the long haul, and I see myself. I'm 47 years old. I talk to my dad every week. And I on the phone, right? So I tell my kids that, I talk to my dad every week on the phone. Like, I'm your dad forever. Like, you're stuck with me. Sorry, and so play the long game, not the short game. And that whole for now thing really helps us keep our head in the right space.
I love it. And again, most importantly, if somebody had ask me what's the most important thing, as being a parent, because again, we've raised them, now we've got another one, and I'm sure you would agree with this, is our kids just need to feel loved. And it can be, very compassionate love. It can be very tough love. There's a lot of different, love is such a bland term, really. There's a lot of different levels of love. So I think as long as our kids know that they're loved, I think that's what I really appreciate. My parents were divorced. In fact, when I was 5 or 6, my biological dad, he actually kidnapped me. And it's a long story. This is not probably the platform to tell my story, or, I need a couch to lay on and talk to a therapist about. But no, so he kidnapped me. I used to go with him on the weekends. And then after that happened, it was kind of done, right? And my mom got remarried, and that's really the dad who raised me. And one thing I can tell you is I know my parents loved me. And my biological dad, I don't know. I wasn't sure. In fact, I found out not too long ago that he passed away. I had no idea, because I didn't keep in touch with him or anything. And I wasn't one of those guys that was like, one day I'm going to reunite. Like, I didn't care. Like, it was like, you weren't the kind of dad, and you didn't treat my mom the way I would you weren't the kind of father I would be. You weren't the type of husband I would be. So I didn't have any interest in reconnecting with him. But I will tell you that the home I did grow up in, I did feel loved. So if I could give any advice to soon-to-be parents, or parents that are currently there, is just make sure your kids know that you love them. And it doesn't mean that they get everything. That's not what love is, or you bend to their every desire. That's not love. But there is a sense, and kids, I think, pick that up really well when they feel loved. And that would be the best advice I could give any parent or soon-to-be parent.
Yeah, man, that's great advice. That's great advice. Because they will look back and they won't remember the momentary temper tantrums. They will remember, was I loved? Was I cared for? Yeah. Yep. And that really, they won't remember, did you buy them the Lululemon leggings that they were begging for or not? They won't. So that's not going to be the catalytic moment for their life. Yeah. So,
well, to your point, you told each of your daughters, you're my favorite, right? And even though it's a kind of an ongoing joke and they talked about it, but they remember that. They remember that I'm dad's favorite, and they felt loved. with you saying that, and that is powerful. I love it.
Yep. And every time I'm alone with them, I always tell them, hey, don't tell your sister, but you're my favorite.
Yeah,
and we laugh about it as a joke, but they know that I love them and care for them, and I'm allowed to have two favorites. So
100%.
And
100%.
I also joke with them that I only have enough love in my heart for two kids. So if we'd had a third, it would have been neglected, And so I have the perfect amount of kids. I never wanted any more.
You could be like me. That third one would have got all the love, or becomes the favorite, and the other two are just like whatever. You were my favorite for a while, but not anymore. So
not anymore. That's right. What have you done for me lately? Right? Yeah. You got to earn it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that'll put them in therapy for sure. Oh man, my voice is a little scratchy, so I'm drinking some hot tea while I do this, but. But yeah, man. So I think raising a family is good, and sometimes we focus so much on business and we forget why we're doing it, And it's like, why are we doing this, And it's like ultimately because, I want to raise these kids. I want to build a life that I want to live, and is your business doing for you what you want it to do for you, and that's success. And what do you really want? Is it an extra digit on your top line revenue? Is it an extra percentage point on your profit, margin at the end of the day? Is it no. At the end of the day, all that is a means to an end. And the end is, I want to be a good father. I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good leader. I want to be someone who has a legacy that I can pass on to my kids. And I just happen to kill bugs, And you does take money, and you do have to have these things, and you do develop your skills, and just like your door-to-door sales program is, it's helping develop skills for people to build that, and takes money to build a legacy. But sometimes we get stuck on the business side to a place where we maybe lose sight of our actual legacy.
Yeah. I remember years ago, a friend of mine, he was a little older, but, just kind of finishing up his place in the workplace, I will say. He was about a retirement age at this time. And I remember him telling me this story. His boss was, getting all over him, like, have you seen the numbers, this, that, and the other? And we were off by this percentage or this decimal point or whatever. And he says, he was kind of in a position, right? He's about to retire, so he had nothing to lose, I guess. But he looked his boss in the face and he just said, do you think in a year, a month, a day, this is all really going to matter? Do you think these numbers and these little things are going to matter? Like in the big picture, probably not. Know that I'm giving my best. I'm doing my best. We're all trying our hardest. But this is not really going to matter at the end of the day.
It really doesn't.
Yeah. And it's a perspective thing, right?
And some people know my story. I was a pastor of a church as well. So I was a Christian minister for a long time. And that gave me a great privilege to be at a lot of funerals. And it probably sounds weird to say that that's a privilege, but it really was a privilege. And I got to sit with a lot of families who are mourning their loved ones. And I got to officiate a lot of funerals. And I can tell you I don't even know how many I did, I never heard anybody ever talk about the top line revenue of the company that they owned or what kind of cars they had. Oh, like, well, Matt was a great guy. He had this amazing house. It was 6,276 square feet. It had a 6-car garage, and he had a Porsche in there, and he had I don't have any of that, but nobody lists off all of that stuff. Nobody's like, every time he went on vacation, he posted about it on Instagram, and boy, those photos looked amazing. They don't. People talk about how the legacy that you live is in the impact you have in other people's lives, not what you consumed and not what you acquired. And, there's no U-Haul behind the hearse. None of it goes with you. And sometimes we get so focused on these big money things and businesses and growing, which is awesome. It's fun to do. But just don't lose sight of the thing that really matters.
Yeah.
It's a means to an end.
I think we could vibe a lot on this, Matt, because I was similarly, they call it different things. I in my church, in my congregation, I was a bishop for several years.
Yeah.
Meaning I had to conduct funerals. I had to go to these funerals. And I couldn't agree more with what your analysis was on what people talk about at your funeral. They didn't talk about the wealth or the material things. They talked about what type of person you were, what type of parent you were, what type of husband or wife that you were. And in fact, just this last Sunday, I spoke to our congregation, and I was talking about a gentleman. One of the things I spoke about was this gentleman who was in his 90s. And he was an avid walker. Like he'd walk through the neighborhood. Like every morning you'd see Brother Hughes and he'd be out, circling the neighborhood and doing his walk well into his 90s, before he passed away. And I have no idea what he did for a living. I had no idea how much money he made or didn't make. But I knew this, he was active. That was the inspiration to me, is even into his 90s, he just didn't just sit around on the couch and reminisce about the good old days. He was out being active. And that was an inspiration to me. And that's the kind of things that we leave behind. Now, I will say this. Some of our listeners are going to listen in and they're going to say, but we need to make money. Like we need to make money. And it should be fun. And it should be, making money to me is my hobby. I don't golf. I don't do all these things. I love to build things. And inherently, if I build something of value, what follows is going to be money. So I think there's nothing wrong with that, right? Even the scriptures, they don't say money is the root of all evil. It's the love of money, right? If that's our only focus, then that's a problem. But if money inherently it depends on what we do with it. It depends on how much are we giving back too. And I think that's, are we tithing? Are we doing these things to give back to people and others who may not be as fortunate? That to me is the real win when you have the means to start giving back. I think that's where a lot of the blessings come too.
I think so. I think we're blessed to be a blessing, and because we can't take any of it with us, we're a conduit of blessing that comes into our life, especially as business owners. Like we have a little bit more money coming into our life, and we have some opportunity most of the time to be able to direct some of that excess money into areas that we're passionate about, whether it's your church community or there's another charity in your market or something that you enjoy to do. And finding, like for me, it's kids. Like I love to find ways to support kids that are less fortunate. And deep down, like what I really want to do is help break the poverty cycle within generational poverty with people. And I maybe I'm judgy, but I feel like once you reach a certain age, it's really, really hard to do it. And so you're better off trying to reach young kids and teach them about money and teach them about blessing. And how do you break that cycle? So for me, it's like, man, if I can find, that's what it drives my heartbeat. And so for some of it, it's like orphanages. I support a few orphanages that I send money to. I have a program here in town that I support, and it's geared around that because that's what's near and dear to my heart. But yeah, it's like what you're giving. And again, it's like nobody's going to talk about how much money you gave, but they're going to talk about how many lives you impacted. And I've been at funerals of very wealthy people that had 10 people in the room, for their funeral. And I've been at funerals where somebody didn't really have much of monetary wealth and they packed a stadium, because of the life that they lived and the impact that they had. And again, as business owners, we should have extra money, or we have the opportunity to make extra money, and we can use that money as a blessing for other people. My hope is that I make a bunch of money and I pack a stadium.
Yeah. You can, right? Like you've
absolutely
seen people like that. They're not unicorns. I mean, you've seen people like that are very gracious with what they have, be it financial contribution or just knowledge, passing that along. They're not secretive with it. That's one of the things that, if we segue into business a little bit, that's one of the things that drives me nuts are these people that are really successful, let's just say it door to door, right? Because that's my background. And they're very successful at it, but they have a hard time sharing anything. I remember still to this day having a conversation with a guy who wanted some extra advice and was going for some awards and different things. And he's like, I just need coaching. I know I need people that have been there and done that. And he's like, the owner of our company is the best salesman ever, but he won't tell anybody how he does it. Like he set all the company records and he did this. And I said, well, there's only two things to me that could be then. Number one, he's dishonest, so he doesn't want to share that. Or number two, he's greedy. It could be both, right? Where he's like, he's so greedy that he doesn't want to that doesn't register with me. And this is why I've written 3 books about door-to-door sales. I have free webinars. I have a free newsletter where I give advice. I do all this stuff at no cost to low cost to say, I want to leave the industry better than I found it. I don't want reps to come into an industry like I did with a 10-page manual that's like, here's all you need to know about door-to-door sales. It's like, what? memorized that thing in a few days. And I was like, there is so much more going on as I started knocking doors and learning that, man, this goes a lot deeper than 10 pages in a manual. So I've just been I've got a different mindset with that in terms of I will tell everybody exactly what I say, how I say it, when I say it. I don't have any secrets versus people that try to keep that to themselves. I can only think it's one of two things. They're either a super greedy person or they're very dishonest, and they just don't want people to know that I'm lying my way or cheating my way or stealing my way into success, because obviously people don't want to be looked at like that. They'd rather be put up on a pedestal and be secretive than be, revealed that, they're not doing it the right way.
So do you find that the more you give away for free, the more that comes into you?
Yeah, I call it the law of heaven. I know there's a lot of, karma or, reciprocity. There's a lot of things that people call it. I call it a law of heaven. And this is an interesting story. So last December, I decided something that I'd never done before. But in December, we start getting a lot of the emails or texts like, hey, we're doing this fundraiser, this charity, or can we give to this family? I decided last December, I was going to say yes to everything. I was just, whatever came across, if it was something that was, giving something to somebody, I was just going to say yes. I'm not saying I was donating thousands of dollars to everything, but it might have been a few, $20, $50, $100, something like that. But I just said, I'm just going to say yes, and I'm going to see what happens. And I will say that my wife and I, we are very giving with our means, and we go out of our way to give to a lot of different things. But this time I was just like, I'm just going to give it to everybody who asks. I'm just going to give it. And I will tell you just one little story. Now, I just feel blessed no matter what, even if I would have got nothing back, more than just the feeling that I got to help other people out. That to me is the real gift. But I will tell you something funny that happened. So we had a chiropractor, kind of a doctor, like a strength recovery for athletes. One of my sons was there after an injury he got in basketball. And so I just get these random emails from these people, and they're like, hey, we're doing this fundraiser for blah, blah, blah. And if you donate so much, you get a raffle. You'll get involved. You'll get a raffle ticket for this raffle. So I'm like, I'm just going to donate because they asked, and it's December. And I said, that's just what I'm going to do. So I donate. And then lo and behold, a month later, right in January, I get notice that, hey, you won the raffle. Come on in, come on in and pick up your prize. And I'm like, okay. So I go in there, and I kid you not, it was this huge basket, and it had all this like protein powders and like healthy type of things, like this clean protein, like way more than what I gave, way more value than what I gave. And I was like, here we go again, right? Now, I ended up giving most of the stuff. I kept one of the packs, I got to be honest, because I love the coconut clean protein powder. That's just my favorite. So I kept that one. But everything else I just gave out to my kids or my friends, kids' friends, and that type of thing. But I was like, this happened a lot quicker or differently than most of the time. But that's really the concept of this law of heaven to me, is like, you just give and you get in return. Maybe not actual gifts or rewards or monetary gifts, but even the feeling or just, I think good things happen to good people who do good things.
I 100% agree. And as you give, you do get back. And it's not like, if I give $10, I'm going to give back 100. Sometimes you give your $10 or your $100, it never comes back to you in a monetary way, but it comes back in so many other ways in your life. And there's something about being generous that breaks the poverty mentality. And if it's like the greedy, like I got to keep it all for myself, I can't share, you end up with this kind of like fearful idea around money. But when you start to give, it starts to break that money fear that sometimes can grip our life. And you're stressed at night, not sure how you're going to pay your bills. It's weird, but when you start to give money, even if it's $10, if that's all you can give, when you start to give, it starts to break that fear over your mind on money, and it changes everything about you. So, now it's like, how much can I give, and it's the more I give, it's like the less fearful I am of money, and the less fearful I am of money, the more money starts flowing towards me because I'm not afraid of it anymore.
Yeah. I heard a talk recently, and they were talking about it was kind of a nasty divorce with a couple, and the courts required the man to pay a certain amount. I guess he cheated on his wife or whatever the situation was, and so the court said, you need to pay this much, for your kids and for your family. And it wasn't sitting well with him. He kind of almost felt like he should have been happy that it wasn't as much, right? And so he kind of took it to the Lord and he said, I feel like I should be giving more. What should I give? I'm thinking about this amount. And the amount he was thinking about in his heart told him, you need to double that. And he was like, whoa. What? Like, I double that? Like, that's crazy. But he felt like it was inspiration. He felt like it came from heaven. And he said, I'm just going to test it, right? Like we read in the scriptures about tithing, like, prove me now, herewith, right? And so he says, okay, I'm just going to pay double and I'm going to figure out a way to make it work. And he felt just this weight of guilt and this tremendous pressure that he had for what he had done to his spouse and his family. It was lifted and it helped. Not that it made it everything perfect or anything, but he just continued to give double the amount he felt like was stretching him. And again, I think there's something powerful about, like you said, just letting go and saying it's not just about money, but it's about the people behind it. It's about what opportunity am I giving other people because I'm generous with my money or with my knowledge, right? There's value in the knowledge that you have to be able to pass those things on as well.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Just being generous. Let's talk about your high-level sales program.
Eventually,
we got to get there.
Eventually, we got to get there, right?
Eventually, I was like, we're going to get there. Yeah,
we got a pastor and a bishop in a room talking about life advice. Like, I mean,
right? Exactly. It's like, man, this is my wheelhouse, man.
I mean, hey,
I'll do this all day long. Forget about sales. Let's talk about your soul.
That's right. Soul over sales. I love it. That's the name of this episode. I think
that's right. The soul over sales. I love that too. That's really funny.
But if we have to pivot, if we have to talk about one of the other things that I'm very passionate about is definitely my sales flow process. So maybe we go off on that for a minute.
And I know, like, you can't get into everything because it's just so deep. Not that you're gatekeeping. It's just it would just be a 10-hour episode, right? So super high level. The next 10 minutes, 15 minutes, like what would be like a 10-minute, 15-minute map summary of kind of what is the high-level framework of this look like?
So I call it my sales flow. And again, it was forged from years and doors and conversations and rejections. Again, I've been in the door-to-door space now for going on 28 years, Matt.
Wow.
And so I've got a lot of history behind this, and this still continues to get tweaked. In fact, I just updated my playbook that I have that's available for people, but I've updated that just recently because there was a concept that I felt like I could improve a little bit. And so it's not just like this is done and this is, it's the Bible and we put the stamp on it and there it is. It's don't touch it. This is an ongoing thing for me, and that's why I'm still on the doors. I'm still listening to audio and giving feedback to reps who are out in the field, because I've always said, if you think you've got door-to-door figured out, you're exactly wrong. Because it's ever changing and evolving, or sales in general, not just door-to-door. And that's what I want to talk about with this sales flow process, is that it is being used by companies that do business to business, companies that are strictly phone sales, obviously door-to-door and any kind of direct sales. So it's not like it's unique. So, and I figured that out about 14 years ago now. What happened was I had a group that reached out to me, people that I knew, and they were starting a finance company, and they were going to go business to business to sell their finance product. And they brought me in and said, you're the door-to-door guru. You know sales like, nobody else that we know knows sales like you. So we want you to develop our business-to-business program. So they kind of made their pitch to me, and I went back that day, and I talked to my wife about it. And I said, here's what they want me to do. It's business to business and blah, 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 and this is kind of what it looks like. And you know what my wife said, and bless her heart, we've been married going on 29 years, right? So, and we're still married, and obviously we got a 4-year-old now, for crying out loud. We better be happily married. But she said this to me. She said, but you're just a door-to-door guy. Can you even do business to business? I mean, can you imagine, Matt, like to me, that was the only fuel I needed. When somebody tells me I can't do something, maybe she knew that. Like I always think, maybe just secretively she knew what was going on there. Maybe she knew what she was doing. I don't think she had any intent to motivate me that way, but she was just, genuinely like, I don't know if you can do this. You're the door-to-door guy. I don't know if you can do B2B.
Right. I'm the same way. It's like, oh, really? Hold my beer. Here I come.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah. So I took that as a challenge from her, and I also like these guys, and I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to really see if my sales flow process would translate from door to door to B2B. Because we had been using it kind of with our call center, our phone people, and it was working fine there. So I was like, and I actually, Orkin Pest Control hired me to kind of put together a call center. This was when I was in college, so I was right off campus. They rented out a spot for us, and I hired about a dozen reps, and we would call back old customers to try to resell them, customers that had canceled years ago. So I put this program together for Orkin, and we crushed it. Like, it was awesome. And we were just using the same process I was using on the doors. So I'm like, works on the doors, works on the phones. Why couldn't it work going B2B? So fast forward again, I consulted with this company for a year and a half. I was fortunate to get equity in this company because I was one of the first 6 people in the room to put the program to launch it, to put it together. It's to date, Matt, it's a $2.5 billion company.
Wow.
And that's with a B. And it's called Snap Finance, and they're amazing. And they've got, I don't know how many thousands of employees across the world, and they're in Europe. They're all over the place. Central, South America, obviously in the States, Canada. And these folks still use my training manual for their reps that go out business to business.
That's amazing.
And so that was, to me, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I'm never going to do door to door, I just shut this off. Like, no, like my sales flow process doesn't just work on the doors. It works any kind of sales environment that you're in, it's going to work.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think sales is sales and people are people. And so being able to understand and navigate objections and be able to dive deep into, okay, what do they really want here? And can I solve their problem? Because I think there's a point too where maybe I can't solve their problem and I'm actually not the solution, and that's okay too. But like, hey, be blessed on your way. I'm going to go on mine and find somebody else I can sell to. And so I do think there's an element of that, but then you find out, but then you got to dive deep. But I think the process is whether you're on the phone doing phone calls or door to door, or I think that, or business to business, people are people, sales is sales. And because 28 years of sales experience, starting out door to door, then building other avenues out. You have a very wide, experience that across all kinds of platforms. And so, I mean, I think that's fantastic. And so where are you, where are you teaching this? How can I get my hands on this thing, man?
Yeah. And I'll give you just the high level bullet points so people know what I'm talking about. I'm going to really simplify this, Matt, and then I'll kind of talk about where people can access this or learn more about the finite details within it. But really, it's a 6-step process. And the first benchmark, and there's sub-steps within each of these steps, obviously, and a lot of nuance. But we're talking about the initial approach is the first 20 to 30 seconds, right? You walk into a business, what do the first 20 to 30 seconds sound like? You get on a phone call, whether you're outbound or inbound, or you're knocking on a door. I've got a 5-step initial approach that I think is magical. And there's science behind every step, and I make sure it's clearly, the one thing that I know about my sales flow process is it's replicable and teachable for just somebody who's willing to learn. And so it's not like I'm teaching things that are just crazy, like, oh my gosh, I could never say something like that, or that makes me feel uncomfortable. Like people have told me before, my process is frictionless. I don't like offending people. I don't hard close people. I very much want people to want what I want, more so than it seems like I want them to want what I'm giving, or what I'm selling. And so the initial approach is kind of that first step. The second step is what I call qualifying. We've got to find out who's worth my time to talk to and who's not.
Exactly.
And so I reverse engineered every sale I'd ever made on the doors. And I said, what were the commonalities? And again, I came up with 5 of them that would happen. Maybe it's 1 or 2. Sometimes it might be as many as 3. But if at least one of these 5 things somebody qualified on, it could be as simple as somebody says, well, how much is it? What is your offer? What's your discount? That's at least something that gives me something to go off of versus the person that's like, we're not interested. Well, it's a huge discount. Yeah, we're good. We're just not interested in that. I'm going to save you a lot of money. Nah, we're good. Like, if there's not these other 4 qualifiers, I'm like, you're not worth my time anymore because you're not even qualifying on that lowest level of just asking, some type of pricing question.
Right.
So
yeah.
qualifying is the second one. The third one, after we qualify somebody, we value build, right? We've got to build value in what it is that we're selling. And we've got different steps and different even times of value building. We can't value build for 5 minutes. We're gonna lose people, right? So we've got 30-second, 60-second, and 2-minute value builds is really what we're trying to compartmentalize. And there's steps within each value build of what we're doing. Eventually, we're going to reveal the price, and then from value building, we go to closing. We're going to ask for the sale. Upon closing, we're probably going to hear concerns, objections arise. So we've got overcoming objections is the fifth step. And then what typically happens is overcoming concerns and closing are cyclical, right? We close, a concern comes up, we address the concern, we close again. Another concern comes up, we address the concern, we close again. Then after we finally get somebody that after a close agrees with our close, I have a 13-step solidifying the sale process that basically ensures that the sale you just made is going to get serviced and it's going to stick. And I'll share why that's so important. I was just at a conference. I spoke with a group of about 500 door-to-door reps. And I had heard something that was appalling to me. One of the leaders of this group said, in the door-to-door pest control space right now, 20 to 30% attrition after you've made a sale is pretty common. And I went, what? 20 to 30% of the people I sell, you're saying would fall off? I said, you guys aren't solidifying the sale. You're missing something in my 13-step process, or all 13 of them. You're not even doing it, right? I don't know, but I could analyze that and figure that out. Because I'll never forget my third year selling for Orkin. I was in Jacksonville, Florida. It was my best summer up to date, right? And I had sold 674 accounts. 674 accounts in about 3.5, 4 months. And on my back end payment, I got paid for 668 of those 674. I lost 6 people that canceled before I got paid out. 6 people. That's less than
20%. Yeah,
exactly. I'm like, our target is under 10%. They're telling me 20 to 30% is normal. And I'm like, people are missing this most valuable, because a lot of people think, okay, they agreed. Oh, tomorrow at noon. Okay, fine. We'll write you up. Let's go tomorrow at noon. See you then. Bye. It's like, no. You've still got some time to make sure that person is solidified. So even though solidifying the sale is the last thing you do, is probably the most important thing that you do.
No, that totally makes sense. Yeah. Because people will buy in the moment, and then they sit on it for a minute, and they're like, wait a minute. Yeah. I just got to buy. I don't know if I want to do this. Right. Yeah.
I actually argue, Matt, because I was in Florida that year, and there's a lot of elderly folks in Florida. I argue that the 6 people that canceled on me, the only reason they did is because they passed away. I just think, nobody cancels on me, so it had to have been.
Right.
That had to have been.
That has to be it.
Yeah, had to be it. That's after they've received their initial service. I actually have 2 different buckets, that KPIs that we measure with cancels. One's a pre-initial service cancel rate, and one's a post-initial service. The post-initial service cancel rate, once they've received that first service, that should be super low. We're aiming for 5%, even under 10% for sure. Mine was under 1% that summer. Now, pre-initial service, I'm good with 10 to 20%, and I'm good with that because that means you've stretched people, right? And then they have that buyer's remorse, and they're like, maybe we shouldn't do that. Because I'm of the belief that if you just sell everybody you talk to, you're just getting the low-hanging fruit. Like you're not really taking people to a place that they didn't want to go. Not that you're forcing them to that place, but you're not really a great salesperson at that point. So 1 in 10, 2 in 10, that's kind of a safe zone for me to go, okay, we're doing okay. But if we get above 20%, then we've got a solidifying the sale issue. If we get below 10%, then we've got a sales issue in general, where we've actually got to learn to probably be a little bit of a better closer, would be my advice on that. So that's, in a nutshell, those are kind of my 6 steps. We could have an episode on every sub-step.
I think that does apply everywhere you go, no matter what industry you're in. Those principles apply all the way across the board. That's awesome, man. I love it. So where do I find this? Like, do you have a book? Like,
maybe, I don't know. But maybe 3.
What color's the book? Because you have the different books and different colors.
We have the white book, the green book and the purple book. Okay, so I try to make it easy for us. But the white book's really just for rookies, new reps getting into the door-to-door space. It's a good reminder for even experienced reps. But the green book is specifically for veterans, and then the purple book is for people selling pest control. It's specific industry specific to our industry. But yeah, no, the sales flow process. If anybody listening wanted to go to my website, lennygray.com, if you sign up for my weekly newsletter, which I just give you free tips, by the way. That's what you get when you sign up for my newsletter. Go figure. I'm just trying to help you get better. I'm actually going to send you the PDF of the sales flow process with all the sub-steps broken down. So you can just go to lennygray.com, hang on the homepage for like 5 seconds, then there'll be a pop-up and you put your info and I'll email you the PDF of the sales flow.
See, I love that. This has been a fun episode. Parenting, legacy, and sales flow. Yeah. I love
Laws
it.
of heaven. We covered it all.
We covered it all.
I don't know what we're going to talk about next time, Matt. I mean,
I don't know either. It's going to be amazing, though. That's all I know. That's right.
This is true.
Yeah. Thank you for being on the show today, man. This has been a killer episode, and I can't wait to talk to you next time.
Awesome. Same.
Thanks.
See you, Matt.
Bye.